In this video, I'm going to talk about the most common feedback that I receive and observe from people who went through job interviews with a high-performing company, right? First feedback I want to talk about here is that many of you wished you had a more positive attitude and even to smile during your interviews. So maybe an action item that you can take from here is to quickly scan through your story bank and see which stories, especially the ones about interpersonal relationships, can benefit from a more positive approach here. Okay, so you should know that some candidates go as far as to keep notes, to smile during job interviews. Second thing I want to talk about here, monumental mistakes. So monumental mistakes do actually happen and are, to my knowledge, more prevalent in senior and executive roles in particular. Most commonly, you hurry up and say something dumb, such as how you cornered the customer into a deal, or maybe forced someone out of a business, okay? Or another one could be that you simply spill the beans about something you didn't want them to know about. Because, you know, in a job interview, there are things you can and things you cannot really talk about, right? So a potential fix here could be as simple as you to slow down and take your time to answer questions and follow-ups in particular, right? So also my next point will be relevant as well. So number 3, even if you get along well with your interviewer, they are not your friend. Okay, so they could be all smiles and even a bit cheesy at times, so it might be challenging to maintain your composure. However, the golden rule is to remain professional, even if you feel like you've really connected well, right? Cautiously optimistic is something I recommend here. Next one, number 4. Gone are the pandemic hiring sprees where interview prep was mostly a nice to have. Okay, so many are surprised nowadays about the intensity of these interviews when they basically expect it to be just a formality, right? And there's one more thing here. The moment you received the positive news that you're scheduled for an interview, there's of course, reason to be optimistic about it. No problem about that. However, an interview date is also a deadline. Okay. Have you been through an interview recently? Because it's more common for people to say they underestimated the time needed to prepare it. Okay, and speaking about interview prep here, and I won't insist about interview prep in this video, it's rare for me to hear people say that, Dan, I had so many great stories to choose from during my interview. And far more common for people to say that they repeated their best stories over and over again, okay? And this isn't a good sign in most places. Next one, number 7. Another common feedback I received from people after final interviews is they couldn't remember all the details of a particular story they talked about, okay? So basically the interviewer dived too deep into an experience which maybe happened a couple of years back. So it's possible you failed to recall something from back then, okay? And you think this is a minor issue, but in reality, and during the heat of the exchange, this could signal many things, such as maybe you didn't really own that decision that you're talking about, okay? Next one, number 8. Another feedback, usually from people who passed their interview, is if they knew the type of investment needed to prepare it, they probably applied to more jobs and even maybe used more outside help, or at least more extensively. This would be basically in a context where you want to maximize your return on investment, your ROI from this experience, from this process. Number 9, after your interview, don't overwhelm your potential employer with multiple messages and phone calls subtly asking for your job offer, okay? It won't help with negotiating a better offer either, if you think about it, right? Number 10, mental health, and this is a big one. It's actually more common than most of you think for someone to feel overwhelmed both during but also while preparing for a job interview. And my point here is basically about stress and burnout management, like either going or preparing a job interview. Bad stress will affect your performance. And since we basically live in particularly stressful times, you should never underestimate this, okay? And in some cases, I'm almost certain that instead of prepping the interview, your time could be better spent on de-stressing activities and only then trying to essentially, again, try to get back in the zone if you want. Or if at all possible, you can also try to reschedule your interview altogether, right? And finally here, a note about confidence. Yes, confidence is important during your interview and can bias the interviewer towards you, especially for people who lack confidence in themselves, right? So the challenge here is that lack of confidence is like 3 to 5% of candidates, whereas up to 30% of these candidates tend to be perceived more negatively. Their confidence, being overconfident, does not play to your advantage, right? So these would be my top tips here. I hope you found this information useful, and thank you very much for watching.